Revealed, the incredible journey of the Alpha King S breeder that transformed 1,000 lives forever. In the heart of Maple Creek, Mary Thompson's small ranch echoed with the soft whimpers and playful yips of her pups, each one born with a mission greater than mere companionship. As she knelt on the ground, surrounded by furry bodies, her heart swelled with a sense of purpose. These dogs weren't just pets, they were hope wrapped in fur, ready to heal broken souls, the wounded veterans who fought bravely, now wrestling with their inner demons, but the winds of change were howling fiercely through the town. The economic downturn had knocked at her family's door, and many laughed while others whispered. No merit, no ambition, they might have thought, presuming that hard work alone wasn't enough to save them. After all, in the eyes of the community, her humble breeding passion was small potatoes compared to the allure of quick cash. Mary could feel their eyes, judgment concealed within pitying glances. Then came the news that hit her like a tidal wave. Her father, once strong as an ox, had suffered a heart attack. The emotional weight smashed into her chest, leaving her breathless. Suddenly, she was juggling life-altering responsibilities, caring for her father and her precious pups. Each little paw, each wagging tail. They were not just dogs, they were lifelines. As Mary rushed to her father's side, the hospital scabbed the aching wounds of her family. Her brother, always the supportive one, distanced himself, consumed by dreams of quick money. When he turned on her, the words stung. "You're wasting your time, Mary. You need to think bigger." But she wasn't just breeding dogs. She was weaving miracles, one pup at a time. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Just when the clouds hung heavy above, a charismatic dog trainer, known for exploiting breeders' ideas, swooped into town with promises of fame and fortune. Mary's gut twisted with suspicion. Was he an ally, or a wolf in sheep's clothing? With every passing day, he charmingly presented himself as her savior, but Mary could feel the tension curling around her like a tightening noose. And the following days, things took another dark turn. With her father's hospital bills stacking up and her brother's betrayal festering like a wound, loneliness cast a heavy pall over her ranch. Yet, against this storm of despair, hope sprang forth when the first puppy completed training to assist a local veteran. Mary's heart surged with pride. This was a victory, their shared success illuminating the darkest corners within her family. The whisper of recognition began to circulate in the town. Could they finally see her worth? But even as the community's heart began to warm, Mary realized she was teetering on a precipice. Family bonds that once felt unbreakable now seemed frail. Could love and determination stitch together the pieces before betrayal struck? With every heartbeat, she felt the urgency, the kind that transforms lives forever. As shadows loomed and doubts crept in, she clenched her fists, declaring to herself that she would protect everything she cherished. The story was just starting, and the coming chapters promised a tempest of emotions. Would redemption come for her family, or would she lose everything she held dear? Mary woke the next morning to the soft rays of sunlight filtering through her bedroom window. The golden light danced over the walls, a gentle encouragement of a new day, but it couldn't shake the heaviness that clung to her heart. Her father's prognosis remained uncertain, and her brother's words echoed, taunting her with doubts. As she stood up, she felt the weight of the world pressing on her shoulders. After preparing a quick breakfast, she stepped into the ranch yard, where the pups were already tumbling and frolicking under the soft morning sky. Their joy was infectious, driving away the remnants of her lingering dread. Mary crouched down, laughter bubbling as a triumphant puppy leapt into her arms. In that moment, surrounded by wagging tails and enthusiastic barks, She convinced herself that she could still find a way through the storm. Later, she planned to visit her dad at the hospital, but first, there was a scheduled training session for the pup that recently graduated. His name was Scout, a scruffy little thing with big eyes and an even bigger heart. The connection the veterans formed with these dogs was magical. It was healing. Mary had to continue, not just for her father, but for all those that depended on her. As the sun reached its zenith, she arrived at the community center, where the training was held. When she walked in, the space buzzed with energy. Veterans mingled, some sharing stories, others exchanging knowing glances filled with understanding. Just stepping into the room gifted Mary a sense of belonging. There, a familiar face caught her attention, a retired sergeant named Joe, who had adopted one of her earlier dogs. His eyes lit up as he spotted her. "Mary, you won't believe how much Duke has changed my life," he exclaimed, lifting the fluffy shepherd into his arms with an affectionate squeeze. "He has given me purpose again." Mary's heart swelled. Moments like these grounded her, reminding her of what she was fighting for. As the training session started, she watched Scout interact with the veterans, his eagerness palpable. But mid-session, a commotion at the back startled her. A new face entered, the dog trainer who had been courting her attention, a glint of ambition in his eyes, reminiscent of a predator on the hunt. "What is going on here?" he asked, quirking an eyebrow, barely masking his contempt. The veteran's expressions flickered from interest to annoyance. Mary's resolve hardened as she stepped forward. She wouldn't let him undermine her efforts so easily. They had built something meaningful, this community depended on it, and she wouldn't back down. The trainer's smile felt more like a threat than a gesture of goodwill. "You know, I have connections," he called out provocatively. "I could get you a spot in the upcoming charity showcase. Think of the exposure." And just like that, the seed of doubt he planted began to sprout in the minds of those around her. Would they trust her and her mission, or would the allure of quick success overshadow their shared vision? She could feel the tension rise in the room as the eyes shifted between her and the trainer. "Mary," Joe's voice snapped her back. "This is your show. You're doing something incredible here. Don't let anyone take that away from you." His sincere encouragement felt like a balm to her racing heart. But what if her father's situation didn't improve? What if her brother's dreams ultimately led them down a dark path? Emotions swelled within her, a storm of fear and determination. She swallowed hard, shaking her head slightly. "Thank you, Joe. I'm not going anywhere," Mary replied, locking eyes with the trainer. She could feel the collective support of the room behind her. They believed in her. They believed in the dogs. She would resist the easy way out. But deep down, a question gnawed at her: was she truly strong enough to shield her dreams against the coming challenges? As everyone clapped for Scout's impressive tricks, Mary's heart raced. She felt the electric pull of determination surge within her. Could this moment spark a turning point, or would shadows from the past drag them all back into darkness? It was a gamble, and the stakes were high. The next chapter awaited, looming on the horizon, bright yet uncertain. Mary's heart hammered in her chest as the clapping echoed in her ears. Scout basked in the affection, tail wagging furiously as he soaked up the praise. But as the celebrations continued, the trainer's presence loomed large, a dark cloud against the otherwise bright day. For a moment, she felt isolated, her determination faltering. She had to hold on, not just for herself, but for everyone who had chosen to believe in her vision. "Let us take a break," she announced, trying to steady her voice and regain her grip. The chatter subsided as the veterans drifted to the back of the room, eyeing her curiously. She noticed that Scout had wandered off, sniffing the air and following a beat-up tennis ball someone had rolled across the floor. For a moment, she allowed herself to smile, his playful spirit lifting her mood. "Hey," Joe said, stepping close to her, concern knitting his brow. "Are you okay?" Mary crossed her arms, feeling vulnerable under his gaze. I don't want to let anyone down. Especially not after everything we've worked for." Joe nodded, understanding flashing in his eyes. "That guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just trying to shake you. You've got something real here, Mary. Trust your gut." But what if her gut led her down a path of ruin? What if the showcase offered her everything she needed, leading her to opportunities she couldn't even dream of? The weight of indecision crept in again, pushing the hope beneath the surface like a diver struggling to catch a breath. The trainer caught her eye from across the room and tilted his head, a smirk creeping on his lips. Mary instinctively felt her hands clench into fists at her sides. She turned away, shaking her head. This wasn't he going to derail her. It couldn't heed, as the session resumed, the room filled with energy once more. Veterans engaged with their dogs, laughter mixing with barks, creating a symphony of warmth. Kid-like excitement drew Mary's focus to Scout, who was now leaping over an obstacle with the grace of a gazelle. A feeling of pride welled up within her. It was more than just training. It was life-changing. Lives were being enriched right there, and she was at the heart of that transformation. "Let us keep that momentum," she called out, steering the group's attention back to the fun. They filled the air with cheers, and for a moment, everything felt right again. But beneath the surface, the unease gnawed at her. What would happen when they headed back to the ranch, when she had to look at her father and make sense of her brother's darkening dreams? The thought cast a shadow on her smile, and doubt crept back in, whispering fears of inadequacy. Later that evening, after the session had ended, Mary returned home, determined to call her dad. She needed his voice, his experience. As she dialed, she could almost hear the rustle of his paper, the hum of the familiar surroundings, yet dread tangled in her heart. "Hey, Dad," she began, her voice slightly trembling. "I just wanted to check in. I've had a long day at the center." To her relief, he sounded cheerful, reminding her of the importance of family, of sticking to one's roots. The conversation flowed easily, but still, Mary couldn't shake the sense that something was shifting, something essential. "I'm proud of you, Mary," he said, his voice steady, firm, like an anchor in a storm. "You'll know the right path when the time comes. Just keep believing." His faith spurred her on, but doubt lingered stubbornly. As she hung up, her resolve crystallized. The trainer's threats wouldn't define her journey. She took a deep breath, feeling the air fill her lungs. What she didn't expect was that the trainer was already plotting his next move, one that would put everything she'd worked for on the line. Back in the community center, whispers caught wind, and Mary would soon find herself facing more than just second-guessing her own strength. She stepped outside, an uneasy calm settling in. The night sky was filled with stars, but the world felt heavy. The horizon held unclear shapes, and trouble lurked just out of sight. What would be her next move? Would she fight him, or explore the tempting offer? The future ahead felt both promising and perilous, and her heart raced at the realization that the true test was about to begin. The next morning, sunlight streamed through Mary's window, dappling the floor with soft golden patches. But instead of warmth, an icy knot twisted in her stomach. Today felt different. There was a tension in the air, a soft hum that promised trouble. She forced herself out of bed, splashing cold water on her face. Scout waited patiently by the door, tail thumping as if sensing her unease. "I guess it's just you and me against the world, huh, buddy?" she murmured, scratching behind his ears. His trusting eyes gave her a flicker of hope. Once they arrived at the center, Mary's heart sank. Whispers filled the crowded space, muffled but potent. The vibrant energy from the previous evening had dimmed, replaced by a heavy cloud of uncertainty. She spotted some veterans huddled together, glancing her way with pity. "Hey, what is going on?" she asked as she approached, keeping her voice steady. Old faces turned towards her, a mixture of sympathy and caution reflected in their eyes. Finally, Susan, one of the kind-hearted trainers, stepped forward. "Mary, it's about the trainer," she started, her voice faltering. "He's been spreading, well, rumors about you and the center." A chill ran down Mary's spine. "What kind of rumors?" "They're saying you shouldn't be training here, that you don't have what it takes, that Scout is just a fluke. It's affecting the veterans. They're nervous about their reputations, you know?" Mary's chest tightened. Doubts crept in. She could almost hear the trainer's smirk echoing in her ears. She swallowed hard. I can't believe he'd go that far. Each word felt like nails in her heart. Scout nudged her leg, sensing her distress. Taking a deep breath, she steadied herself. She had to reclaim the narrative. Listen, everyone, she said, her voice cutting through the whispers. You all know how hard we've worked. I believe in this center, and in every one of you. Let us prove him wrong. Together. Her words ignited something in the crowd, an ember of resilience flaring up, but doubt clung to the edges like shadows. Yeah, Joe shouted, hands raised in solidarity, and soon others joined in, a chorus of agreement. The room buzzed with renewed energy, but Mary felt the weight of their expectations settle onto her shoulders. As the training began, she pushed herself harder. Each obstacle Scout navigated, each command he mastered, she focused on the challenge rather than the storm brewing outside. For every distracted glance from the veterans, she channeled that negativity into urging Scout forward, but each bark of encouragement was mingled with a lingering anxiety. Midway through the session, just as she started to feel a sense of triumph, a sharp cry pierced the air. It came from the entrance. Eyes turned as the trainer strode in, exuding a chilling confidence. He surveyed the room, then locked eyes with Mary, a fierce challenge hanging between them. Hope you're not getting too comfortable, he said, his voice dripping with mockery. I'm here to remind everyone why you shouldn't be leading the center. A collective gasp rose from the gathered veterans. Mary's heartbeat thrummed wildly. She felt trapped, exposed. Yet right then, something inside her stirred. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about everyone who trusted her, a mission bigger than just a showcase. Are we really going to let fear dictate our passion? She called out, her voice stronger than she felt. Scout, and I believe in our work. If anyone has a problem with that, they can face me. Silence fell, and the tension crackled in the air. This was the moment, a turning point, but what would unfold next? The trainer grinned, revealing his true intent. You'll regret that challenge, Mary. Could she hold her ground against this manipulation? Could she really protect what she'd built? As the room tensed, Mary found her voice again, but with uncertainty behind her words. I'm not backing down. The stakes were higher than before, and the challenge loomed in front of her like a dark shadow. Would she rise to meet it, or fear would win? With the crowd watching, the next hours would reveal whether her courage could withstand the storm, and Mary felt an invisible line stretching taut between hope and despair. What exactly were the trainer's plans, and would Mary's spirit be enough to thwart them? Mary felt the energy in the room shift, almost like a living thing, quaking beneath the weight of her bold declaration. The trainer's eyes narrowed, as if he was sizing up not just her, but the very resolve of everyone gathered. You're brave, I'll give you that, he said slowly, almost mocking. But bravery without skill means nothing. We'll see just how much you and Scout are made of. His words hung in the air like dark clouds, darkening the atmosphere. The veterans murmured amongst themselves, breaking the heavy silence. Mary could see their faces, a mixture of concern and renewed loyalty. Joe stepped forward, his brows furrowed. We believe in you, Mary. We've seen what you can do. This isn't just your fight, it's ours too. In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within Mary, lighting a fragile path through her anxiety. She could feel Scout's warm presence beside her, his body pressed against her leg, amplifying her courage. Here was her chance to not just defend herself, but to rally everyone to unite them in a fight against the darkness creeping in. As the training resumed, Mary focused on Scout, solidifying their connection as partners. She couldn't ignore the trainer's presence, but she had to push through, pouring her heart into the commands.
Sit. Stay. Come.
Good boy, Scout. Every command was layered with a new fervor, determination spilling into her voice. The bond between them tightened, and Scout executed each task with precision, reveling in her encouragement. With each successful maneuver, those doubt-laden whispers shifted toward cheers and applause. The veterans began to participate more, joining in to help motivate Scout. They were no longer spectators. They were a community battling together against an unseen opponent. Yet the trainer watched with an unsettling smile, arms crossed, and Mary could sense his plotting. He seemed to be waiting for the right moment to strike. As the session wound down, he cleared his throat. "Impressive, Mary," he said, inflection oozing with sarcasm. "But let's take it up a notch, shall we? How about a little challenge?" He gestured toward an imposing obstacle course set up in the corner, a gauntlet designed to test the hardest of teams. "If you think you can prove your worth, let us see you tackle this. Win, and I'll withdraw my comments about your capabilities. Lose? Well, we'll have to see what that says about you." Mary's heart raced. It felt as if he were laying a trap, each word dripping with malice. Yet there was no way to back down now. She glanced at the veterans, their eager faces lit with hope, then back at Scout. He looked ready for anything. "All right," Mary declared, her voice steady. "Let us do it." The room buzzed again, the energy palpable. The veterans erupted in cheers, yet underneath lay an undercurrent of worry. Would this prove to be the right move or the beginning of her downfall? As Mary and Scout approached the obstacle course, the trainer's smirk deepened. She felt the weight of the crowd's expectations pressing in again, but recommitted herself to the moment. This was more than about her skills, it was about trust, belief, and a community united against adversity. The first obstacle loomed, an intimidating wall that seemed impossibly high. Mary took a deep breath, her heart pounding like a drum, and glanced over at Scout. "We can do this," she whispered fiercely. They were ready to leap into the unknown, but with each challenge, would they fall or rise? The tension crackled in the air as they launched forward, heading straight into the storm. Mary could only hope that, whatever happened next, her heart and Scout's spirit would guide them through no matter the outcome. What lay ahead in the course of this battle against fear and doubt? As Mary and Scout stood at the base of the wall, the crowd's energy surged with anticipation. The trainer's voice rang out, cutting through the tension like a sharp blade.
All right.
"Let us see your first move," he called, his tone dripping with condescension. Mary felt a wave of determination wash over her. She had come so far, and she wouldn't let fear pin her down. With a nod to Scout, she sprinted toward the towering structure. The gravel crunched under her shoes, almost sinking with her racing heartbeat. She reached the wall and took a moment to gauge the height. It loomed above her, casting a long shadow that seemed to whisper doubts. But looking down at Scout, she felt the heat of his excitement. "Ready, boy?" she shouted, feeling the connection pulse between them. Scout barked in response, a sound of pure enthusiasm that began to counter the weight of her nerves. Then, she launched herself upward, gripping the rough edge of the wall. Climbing felt like an instinct, a primal necessity fueled by belief. She could hear the crowd's collective breaths, a symphony of support and worry. With each push, she clawed at the wall, her muscles burning but her spirit unyielding. When she finally reached the top, a fleeting moment of triumph gripped her. She balanced for just a second, looking down at Scout, who was barking excitedly below, his eyes filled with admiration. Then, the inevitable challenge hit her descending.
"Scout, stay," she called.
Sensing her fear, he remained rooted at the bottom, eyes locked on her as if to say, "I trust you." Taking a deep breath, Mary steadied herself and climbed down, her heart hammering as she jumped the last few feet, landing solidly beside Scout. Cheers erupted around the room, many faces lighting up with pride and excitement. Then, with a swift gesture, the trainer signaled for the next obstacle, a series of narrow beams, suspended just above ground level. This one's about balance. Who knows? Maybe a little teamwork will do you some good. Mary felt the heat rise in her cheeks. There was truth in his mocking tone. But she shook off his words. The skeptics didn't see what she and Scout had built. They were more than a team. They were a family. With Scout beside her, they navigated the beams, moving in sync, using each other's energy to maintain their balance. The crowd roared again, and in that moment, Mary realized this was not just about overcoming individual obstacles. It was about a shared journey, a path that intertwined with everyone in the room. But then, as they neared the final beam, something shifted. The trainer stepped forward, his smirk faltering for just an instant. "Let us see how you handle a little distraction," he challenged. Suddenly, he released a controlled chaos, loud noises, bright flashes, movement out of the corner of her eye. Scout momentarily faltered, taking a step back. Mary felt the shift inside her. This was the real test. She dropped down on one knee, bringing herself and Scout close. "Focus, buddy. It's just noise. We've got this," she whispered, her voice a calm against the chaos. As Scout's eyes found hers, she could see trust shining through the fear. They would not waver. With renewed determination, they resumed the obstacle course. Yet the challenge was mounting, and Mary's pulse raced with every step. Would their bond hold strong? Could they conquer this storm of distractions and doubts? The finish line loomed ahead, a promise of triumph, but it felt so far away. Just how far would they need to go to prove themselves to the trainer and, more importantly, to each other? As they inched closer, Mary's spirit soared. The moment of doubt had come, but could she turn it into a moment of triumph? Or would the dark cloud of uncertainty overshadow everything? The answer hung in the air, heavy with possibility. Mary's heart raced as they moved cautiously onto the final beam. Every sound amplified, the voices in the crowd blending into a chaotic murmur. Yet, with every step, she focused on Scout, his presence grounding her amid the chaos. "Just a few more," she murmured, her voice barely audible to herself. Scout's sharp, attentive gaze followed her every move. She could feel their breaths synchronizing, a rhythm guiding them across the narrow wooden path. The world outside faded, and it was just the two of them, Mary and Scout, against the noise. Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed from the opposite side of the room, and Scout leaped backward, his instincts kicking in. Mary instinctively reached out, grabbing for his collar. "Scout, stop!" she exclaimed, urgency flooding her voice. The look on his face was pure panic. She knelt again, bringing herself to his level. "It's okay, boy. Just a distraction. Remember our training?" In those frantic moments, Mary's mind scrambled. They had practiced under stressful conditions, but this was different. Her body trembled slightly as the trainer's voice mocked from afar. "Let us see if she can pull him through this one." Mary felt a wave of anger surge within her. Who was he to question their bond? She squeezed Scout's collar in reassurance. "You know me, and I know you," she whispered, willing her energy to transfer into him. "Let us finish this together." Slowly, she stood, taking a deep breath, channeling every ounce of courage into her next steps. The beam felt less narrow now, almost wider under her resolve. Step by step, with Scout right at her side, they started to march again. With each footfall, they seemed to melt away the noise. The crowd's cheers morphed into a powerful drumbeat, fueling their charge forward, and with each calculated step, something beautiful began to unfold. The bond they shared rippled out into the room, drawing in the crowd, their energy transforming into collective support. Mary felt the excitement radiating back to her. It was infectious. As they approached the end of the beam, Scout's confidence returned. He moved closer to her, steadying her, embodying the trust they had built over countless hours of practice. "Almost there," she encouraged, her voice rising above the storm of sounds. They could see the finish line just ahead, a slight glowing ribbon signaling victory. When they reached the edge, Mary took a leap off the beam, landing gracefully beside Scout. The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers filling the space like a victory anthem. Mary flashed a radiant smile at Scout, the rush of joy surging through her. They had faced distractions. They had overcome doubts, but before she could celebrate, the trainer stepped forward, his expression now unreadable. "Interesting," he said, crossing his arms. "But let us see how you handle true pressure." A silence fell as he gestured behind him. Suddenly, another obstacle was unveiled, a tunnel filled with shifting walls and swinging objects designed to disrupt focus. Mary's heart sank. She felt like she had just reached one peak only to find another mountain to climb. But she caught Scout's gaze again, those bright eyes reflecting unwavering faith and strength. "Okay, buddy, we've got one more to go," she said, determination igniting anew within her. Just how deep would their trust be tested? Could they navigate this new threat together? The path ahead trembled with uncertainty, waiting to reveal what lay beyond for Mary and Scout. Mary's breath hitched at the sight of the tunnel. It loomed before them, dark and daunting, but a flicker of resolve ignited within her chest. This was a time to show not just herself but the crowd, the trainer, and most importantly, Scout, what they were made of. "Stay close," she whispered, an instinctive command. Scout nodded, his large frame tense but ready. Together, they stepped into the shadows, the atmosphere shifting as the walls began to shift and sway around them. The first slap of the swinging object came unexpectedly, and Mary ducked just in time. Scout mirrored her movements, his agility remarkable. They quickened their pace, eyes scanning the surrounding chaos, seeking to anticipate every unpredictable element. About half a dozen dark, solid panels swung like pendulums, threatening to throw them off balance. "Focus on me, Scout," she shouted, feeling the rush of adrenaline. "We can do this." With each swing, Mary's heart pounded louder. She felt the weight of eyes on her, the crowd holding their breath. The thrill of their earlier victory faded into a distant echo. She couldn't picture failure. They had gotten this far. As they weaved through the obstacles, she felt the air grow thicker, almost suffocating, with uncertainty. "Keep moving," she encouraged, her voice breaking slightly, but not from fear. She was determined. That fire had ignited anew. Scout bounded forward, his movements sharp and confident. Mary felt a rush of gratitude for their many training sessions. The endless hours had built not just trust, but an instinct for coordination. When Scout jumped, Mary jumped. When he spun, she spun. Together, they were more than just a team. They were a single unit. The walls swayed closer, and a specific swing glided dangerously past her shoulder, missing by mere inches. She heard gasps from the crowd, saw the wide eyes of some spectators. "Just like we practiced," Mary shouted, a mantra now, both for herself and Scout. But there was no denying the toll. With each maneuver, each calculated step, fatigue crept into her muscles, threatening to slow her down. Meanwhile, Scout barked encouragingly, almost urging her to push further. Mustering her strength, she sprinted forward, timing her movements with Scout's signaling barks. They were dancing through danger, now one moving pulse in sync. Then, something unexpected happened. A wall shifted more quickly than anticipated, a final challenge trying to tear their focus away. Scout barreled ahead but hesitated at the last moment, letting out a warning growl. Mary's heart leapt. They had come so far. In an instant, she made the decision. "Scout, let us go," she called out, flinging herself onto the uneven surface, reaching for him. There was no time for doubt or hesitation. She could feel the wall closing, the air pressing against her. The world around them slowed, and in that moment, it was just her and Scout again, just like the beam. With a final leap, she felt a rush of triumph as they slipped past the last barrier, landing safely on the other side. The crowd erupted into cheers, but all she could hear was the steady thrum of her heartbeat, pushed to the brink. Mary turned to Scout, who was panting but eager. He seemed to understand they had conquered yet another trial together. They stood within the cheering sea of faces, but a new thought began creeping into her mind, a mix of dread and excitement. Could this test be just the beginning? As that thought filled her, the trainer stepped forward again, this time a hint of respect finally gracing his expression. "Not bad, but what if I told you that the next challenge will require more than just skill?" Fear twisted Mary's stomach, yet curiosity gripped her harder. What was coming next? Mary's heart raced. Just the intensity of the trainer's words sent shivers down her spine. "More than just skill?" she echoed aloud, feeling her resolve twist into something almost palpable. She looked at Scout, his eyes reflecting her own tension and anticipation. What lay ahead would challenge them like never before, The crowd murmured softly, anticipation hanging thick in the air. She could feel every single gaze trained on her, every breath held, wondering what the trainer would throw at them next. Dread twisted her stomach into knots, but curiosity danced on the edges of her mind. Bring it on, Mary thought assertively, puffing out her chest. She would meet whatever challenge came next head-on. The trainer motioned them to step forward, gesturing toward a larger section of the arena, shrouded in elaborate fabric. He slowly pulled it back, revealing a huge obstacle course where colors flashed and shadows lurked, equipments twisting into bizarre formations. Giant wheels loomed overhead, and narrow bridges swayed precariously, like a challenge designed for daredevils. "This is your next trial," he announced. "Your connection with each other will be pushed to the limit. You need to trust each other completely to succeed." Mary's pulse quickened. Trust was their foundation, but now it felt like an enormous weight stacked against them. There was more than just physical ability at play. Emotions would be their true test. "Don't worry, Scout," she whispered, as if he could sense her anxiety. "We've trained for this." The trainer continued. "Work together. Communicate like you've never had to before." He nodded towards the first challenge. "This is about reading each other, being in sync with every move. You can't hesitate." With a deep breath, Mary clutched Scout's collar. They moved to the start line, and as the buzzer sounded, they launched into the course. The first obstacle involved navigating through a set of spinning discs. They could easily knock you off balance if you miscalculated. Mary counted on Scout to guide her, his senses sharp as they sped through. When he jumped, she leaped after him without hesitation, a whirlwind of motion and instinct. But as they cleared the discs, deeper challenges awaited. A wall suddenly descended between them, blocking their path. Mary's heart sank. Doubt crept in. They had trained for obstacles, but this was an emotional wall. "Scout," she cried out, feeling the space between them expand. "I can't see you. Keep going." The crowd shouted, spurring them on. She turned, facing the wall. "Trust me," she yelled. "We're a team." For a split second, silence enveloped them. Then, with a powerful rush, she remembered all the times they didn't hesitate. All those moments spent falling and getting back up, learning to lean on each other. Mary took a step forward, trusting her instincts.
"Scout."
"Just listen to my voice." Suddenly, from the other side of the wall, she saw the twitch of movement. Scout's massive form was moving again. Just like that, he bounded back to her, leaping over the upper edge of the wall with incredible agility. They locked eyes, a fierce connection lighting the fire in her chest. It wasn't just skill, it was the bond they shared. With renewed energy, they pushed through the next set of obstacles together. Each time something new arose, a rope swing, a steep incline, their communication became clearer. Scout would let out signals, and in turn, Mary listened. As they approached the final challenge, a high-tension beam hanging over a foam pit, a collective gasp echoed from the crowd. "This is it," she whispered, feeling the tension thrumming again. "Let us show them what we can do, Scout, together." The beam wobbled as they approached, threatening to send them crashing if they faltered. But before Mary could step up, the trainer's voice cut through her focus. "What if I told you this challenge could change everything?" An unknown weight settled in her stomach, echoing her doubts. What lay beyond this challenge? Could their bond withstand not just the physical test, but whatever the trainer had in mind next? Mary's heart raced as she stared down the wobbly beam, thoughts swirling like a tempest in her mind. What did he mean? Could this truly change everything? Glancing at Scout, she saw the determination glinting in his eyes. Their connection pulsed between them, a lifeline in the chaos. "All right, buddy," she whispered, feeling her resolve solidify. "We've got this." With a deep breath, they stepped onto the beam together. The moment their paws and feet touched the surface, the world narrowed down to just them, each heartbeat syncing like clockwork. Mary took a cautious step forward, her knees slightly trembling, but Scout mirrored her movements, steady and unwavering. The crowd held their breath, anticipation thick in the air. "Focus," she told herself, and for a moment, All doubts evaporated. They were in this together. As they traversed the beam, each step became a declaration of faith. Scout's paws moved deftly, finding balance with every shift. He seemed to read her mind, knowing instinctively when she needed him most. Midway across, the trainer's voice broke the moment. "If you fall, it could all be over," he taunted. Mary's breath hitched, but she couldn't let fear seep in. "We won't fall," she declared, her voice spilling with determination. "We are strong." The words unleashed something powerful inside her. Scout barked in agreement, a sound that pierced through the weight of uncertainty. They had survived so much personal turmoil, the shadows of others' doubts, and it all came down to this. With one final push, they reached the end of the beam. Cheers erupted from the crowd, a wave of sound lifting her heart. Then came the final test, a simple barrier of fabric, but the trainer's words echoed ominously in her mind. "Trust in each other. This is the key to true success." As they approached the barrier, Mary considered what lay beyond. This wasn't merely about winning. It was about trust, redemption, and hope. Could they face not just the trainer, but everything his challenges symbolized? She glanced down at Scout, his eyes full of faith and fight. "On three," she said, her voice hushed but steady. 1, 2, 3. They burst forward, charging through the fabric together. The world around them exploded in colorful sounds and laughter, and suddenly, they emerged triumphantly on the other side. The buzz of the crowd enveloped them, a cacophony of support that filled the atmosphere with warmth. The trainer, however, had backed away, a look of surprise replacing his former arrogance. Mary grinned, heart soaring, feeling the elation of victory. "That's how trust feels." She looked at Scout, who pranced joyously, his spirit unbroken. "Mary!" Joe's voice rang out, breaking through the clamor. "You did it! We believed in you." The veterans joined in the celebration, applause and cheers mixing with shouts of encouragement. As Mary stood there, surrounded by the warmth of community, her heart swelled with gratitude. It wasn't just about her and Scout anymore. It was about how they had lifted each other, how they had brought healing to lives behind them. The trainer stepped forward, his earlier bravado diminished. "You've shown remarkable strength." He extended his hand. "Perhaps I underestimated you." She looked at his hand, feeling a mix of emotions. Strength isn't determined by skill alone. It's about heart and believing in one another. In that moment, Mary felt an internal shift. She wasn't just the breeder, she was a beacon of hope. "Congratulations, everyone," Mary declared, directing her gratitude toward the crowd. "This journey is ours together. Let us continue lifting each other up." Just then, her phone buzzed a message from her father.
"Proud of you, Mary."
"Always. Remember, we are family." She smiled, her heart warmed by those simple words. It wasn't just about saving her ranch anymore. It was about saving each other, about healing together. Mary watched Scout, feeling that familiar spark of connection. They had faced a storm, but they had prevailed. The whispers of the community didn't matter anymore. What mattered was the love and trust they had built, the lives they had changed. "Let us go home, Scout," she said gently, ruffling his fur. "We have more lives to touch." With the sun beginning to set, casting a golden hue over Maple Creek, Mary and Scout walked hand in paw, the journey of transformation only just beginning, yet full of promise. Every challenge they had encountered had only brought them closer. They emerged stronger, ready to dive into a future that shimmered with hope. Together, if you watched this incredible journey unfold, that was just the tip of the iceberg. You need to subscribe now to witness the continued magic and transformation in future stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for this inspiring community. Don't wait not even one more second. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this heartwarming ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, let us spread the love and unity.